Oh, if you're listening along, folks, this is stupid. It's pissing me off. No balls. This album doesn't have balls.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, super excited intro this time. We're finally doing Invisible Touch.
And Michael
Cohen.
Yeah. And
My favorite member of Genesis. Their shady lawyer / keyboard player.
Ooh.
All right. Finally getting to Genesis. It's not Abacab or Shapes or Duke, but
I just don't feel ready.
you got to start somewhere. Yeah, you got to start off soft. This is one that I needed to do a retrospective of. Let's start off by saying I enjoy Genesis. I love the album, but for me it's always kind of been a collection of songs. Really great songs. The only weak spot on it for me is...
I feel like it was like when I had stopped paying attention to what was happening at that point. You know, it's just kind of...
So anything she does is the only song on here I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of, so that's it. It's my least listened to out of the well-known ones. So there's Genesis' very first album, Genesis Revelation, which I never listened to because they hadn't figured out anything yet. It was just them trying to write songs for the Bee Gees or something.
Right.
Trespass, the second one, out of the main great, bulk of Genesis albums, I don't really just put this one on that much, but I technically love it just for each individual song. Yeah. Again, this is a good one to do after Thriller because it's sort of similar to me in that
same time period,
Yeah, I love a lot of the songs on it.
It's got a vibe to it.
It's just, as a whole collective album, doesn't really have a special place in my heart in the Genesis oeuvre. And this is the first one that's...
It's very radio friendly.
Yeah. This is the first one that's heavily dominated by pop hits, where there's no real overarching concept. Duke and Abacab still had heavy progressive rock elements in it, and then they dialed it way back on the Genesis / Shapes album. In this one, they just took it even further and started...
Like they started thinking about retirement and, hey, how am I going to pay for all these houses that I've bought?
And I think the Phil Collins machine started to overshadow the Genesis machine, and they were like, okay, we have to kind of compete with that commercial train where it's going, so we got to hop on board that. And
yeah,
they got a little less interested in the artistic exploration aspects.
You probably remember better than I do. When does No Jacket Required fall? Like, it was before this, but how much before?
I have to look it up. This was 86.
But it does feel definitely like the next step after. That's the weird thing with Genesis and Phil Collins. Yeah. It's kind of like,
oh yeah,
where does this fall? It's like
this was the year after. No Jacket Required was 85. I know that because it was kind of a hit when the month I was born. About then, so yeah,
and then you crawled out and you said,
before.
"Hey, put that album back on."
And at some point, we got to do No Jacket Required. If we had time, which we don't, it'd be good, like back to back comparison.
The Michelob song tonight is coming up, and I think it's interesting that a Genesis song got purchased for advertising because I don't think that happened before, and I don't think anything was available. Like, it wasn't as accessible. Mm-hmm. Like, I think that says something about how commercially viable this album was. Mm-hmm. It feels good, it sounds good, it's easy to listen to, but it does still hold some of those artistic, like, I don't want to be 100% radio. Mm-hmm. There's still something there.
Yeah.
They hold something. Like Mike and the Mechanics. It holds something.
And another interesting piece of trivia, this came out the same year as Peter Gabriel's So album, Sledgehammer, In the Air Tonight, In Your Eyes.
Right. Okay. So it does make sense that he was becoming more commercially viable too. Like that's the thing that's interesting to explore. Did the world catch up with them, or did they? Who caught up with who? You know what I mean?
I think they.
Like, my cynical mind always goes, they wanted to make some money. They were just tired of it. It's like, nobody's listening to this. Not enough people are listening to this. How can we be more, on the radio? Or did people's tastes just catch up with what they were already doing? Which sounds a lot like all the Phil Collins stuff. It's just like, they're slow, like, you go back and listen to it now, and I feel like we're catching up with them. But who knows for sure? It's all in hindsight. I don't know.
I think their song craftsmanship was sort of reaching its pinnacle and just sort of happened to coincide with some stuff that ended up being like more concise songwriting, just good songwriting with still elements of things that didn't sound like anything else. They were still pushing the boundaries within popular music. And
maybe it could be a little of both. Because, come on, Phil Collins, he likes to be popular.
Yeah.
And I think at some point he had to go, I got to get on the radio, or people won't come to my concerts.
So yeah,
they were probably doing just fine, but
I think it's easier to pinpoint that with Phil Collins, but not quite Peter Gabriel. I've never ever been able to figure out how he went from his Security album, the one before it, to So, because the album before So is so dark and murky and completely avant-garde and experimental, and So is still pretty dark except for like the few main hits, but like it's such a huge leap. But
even the hits of Peter Gabriel are pretty cynical. It's like, I'm going to write a hit song about how hit songs are stupid. It's like, it's Peter Gabriel had there's some genius there.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
ridiculous.
I'm saying Genesis had a fairly gradual transition. Like, it was overall pretty smooth, where they were dropping elements gradually from just classical music with rock instruments, gradually dropping those elements until they just reached. They didn't go all the way, because the album after this, We Can't Dance, I think actually incorporates more of like broad soundscapes than this album does. So this was kind of the zenith of just well-oiled machine. Anyway, let's get it started. Here's Invisible Touch.
Meow, 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 meow. Has that Phil Spector full sound, that wall of sound, everything. There's no empty spots, okay?
I don't know how rare a breed of a Genesis fan I am, where I love everything, but I would just like to hear stories of people who ended up at a hard no, where at this album they're like, okay, I can kind of follow you here and there, and then we're just like, eh.
Yeah, I think you're always trying to figure out, like with this album, you're trying to go, are you just a poser with quotes, or are you really being a poser if you just want people to hear what you're trying to say? Like, if you're trying to get people to listen to you, don't you want to make it sound like what they want to hear? I don't understand. I've never understood that whole thing where it's an overriding theme in music where this sound is very radio friendly, especially of the era.
Well, let's just take when I saw them in 2008, the only spot, because they were doing stuff from the beginning to the end, and the only spot in it that was where I went to the bathroom was Hold On My Heart, which is just a Phil Collins song that he crammed into the last album he did with them. Mm-hmm. And it was like, nope. No thanks, going to pee, but that's it. So for me, this is super poppy. This is like the epitome of just Genesis doing 80s pop, and I'm fine with it because it's an incredible melody. It's snappy, it's well produced.
Okay, I'm going to turn off.
It's a beautiful song on its own, regardless of how it's produced.
I'm going to turn off my cynicism for a minute and say, could it be that this is Genesis going, we could do this if we wanted to. I could totally make a song that you want to hear.
I'm not sure how that transition takes place where
Right.
they end up being okay with a song like this.
That song is over.
So I do not know.
Here's the next song.
I've seen numerous interviews of the band, but I don't know what. There is a transition, but it's not really that gradual. You're only talking about like within a 5-year span. They end up. There are dark, heavy, progressive, quote unquote, moments in this. Here's tonight.
He's coming down like a monkey.
This was
and
their,
it's all right.
This was their second go around with In the Air Tonight. I think they regretted not doing.
I don't think he's kind of saying something to Peter Gabriel, like a little bit, kind of going, "Screw you, I could do you."
Yeah,
because that sounds like Phil Collins to me all over. It's just going, I can do you, I can do me, and I can do you. I can do anything I want. Like he's such an ego.
And this is why I just love this whole sphere, just like the musical family tree here of how music is a conversation. So yeah, I think Peter Gabriel, when he started to get into more of the drum machine, like sparse drum machine, like polyrhythmic kind of thing, and then Phil Collins kind of latched on that because he played drums on Peter Gabriel's third album, which had like The Intruder and Biko.
See, I was a teenager when this song was out, and all I can tell you is I hear this song and all I want to do is bust open a Michelob and just start pounding it. The commercial was so ubiquitous. It was just ridiculous. And it made this song a hit before it was a hit. Like, it was just ridiculous. Like, more than... I'm sure if I thought about it long enough, I could come up with something that was more tied. But I can't think of it right now. This song is so tied to Michelob. It was their last gasp. I mean, can you even find a Michelob now? I don't even know. Like, somewhere. Michelob Ultra is a thing, but this wasn't Michelob Ultra. This was Michelob.
Just a Michelob.
Michelob Night.
I think light is all they make now.
Make it a Michelob Night. Matter of fact, I think even the video that they had for this was the same as the commercial. Like, I don't even think they were... I think they were, like, completely filmed the same time and edited slightly differently. This one's more like, come on, they just got paid. They got paid. I'm just saying it's hard to separate.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a really good song when I listen to it now, but I still go, do I want a Michelob right now? It's...
This is where the radio edit is significantly better. Like the song Abacab, where they would just...
where it just breaks down for like 4 minutes.
Where they... Yeah, filler... Sorry, Genesis, but... And another filler bell for Abacab, which is... Yeah, that's the greatest radio edit of all time, because...
why was this self-indulgent?
Right.
How long does this go on?
Because you're taking... I'm just talking about Abacab now, but the song Abacab... where it's this hard-driving, awesome song, and then they just break it down into this pointless...
This is more like what you would do when you were live, right? I mean, this is more like, hey, we're going to break this down, and then two guys get to go take a break, because this is a drum machine, and this is just the guy playing the synthesizer. Who plays the synthesizers all the time?
Tony Banks.
Tony Banks. Yeah, he's just out there playing while everybody else takes a break. And
this is definitely less filler than the song Abacab, because it kind of comes down and then slides back up to the chorus.
It's still all right. It's just, but you don't.
And I think this is the first one where it's probably the majority of the album is they're using like drum pads.
Yeah.
Which gives it, I think it removes some depth from it. I know some of the songs kind of thrive on that quality.
That's a big problem that you run into in music in the 80s, where they were looking for that crisp sound, and it comes off more canned, like made up, than real. It's like, that's what I think that was the backlash of the 90s, when everybody just said, I just want you to play on a real instrument. Like, if you can't make it happen with a real, like, what am I here for? If you could just show up and turn on a recorder and play it, you know? You're coming down like a monkey.
It feels like they just kind of hedged their bets, where before this they would use real drums.
Like a monkey?
They would use real drums and then accent it with... Yes, tonight, if I'm ever coming down like a monkey, it's not all right. Before they were using, real drums and accenting it with a drum machine. Mm-hmm. And in this one, they were using drum pads and accenting it with real drums.
But it was what everybody was doing, so I can't... Yeah. It's hard to, like... Am I criticizing the era or the album? You know what I mean? Because they were all messing with stuff like that. So at some point you have to go, just because you can do it, should you? That kind of thing. Some of this feels a little like that. Just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. But this song feels good.
Yeah, it is pretty much sonically perfect. That's actually, I think that's one of the...
Sometimes counts against it.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to count that as a bit of a flaw, is that it's sonically... It's too well...
It feels really good, which explains why somebody wanted it to advertise beer, right? It's just sonically, it feels exactly like it's supposed to feel. And it's like,
it sounds
there's
like
nothing raw to this at all.
It sounds like Michelob tastes.
There's nothing raw to this at all. This all feels very engineered and exactly the way I want it to be. That's all. What's coming up next? We're done with tonight. What's the next one?
Land of Confusion.
Ooh.
It's kind of strange because there are times where I listen to
anti-Reagan, Margaret Thatcher.
Yeah.
Here it comes, folks.
Anti-Cold War, but
after a commercial.
But like tonight. It's one of those strange kind of chameleon songs where it can be easy listening if you want it to be easy listening. But if you're listening to it in the right mood and in the right volume...
Ooh, I got a better word for it than that.
It's
heavy. More like a chimera. It's like two different things at the same time.
Yeah.
It's not pretending to be anything. It's more like, I am two different things at the same time.
I think
so if you want to look at Phil Collins as a genius, you can say it's like that. It's like, this song is perfect for a beer commercial. But... if you don't like it, you're going to look at it and go, no, you're stupid and this is vapid and pointless.
But it still has some teeth to it.
I like it better now. I like it better now than I did when it was out. Like, you get older and you have perspective on things.
It's kind of unfair, but I think maybe Invisible Touch gets a bit of like a reputation of being sort of toothless or ballless or something, but really most of the songs have some edge to them except for Invisible Touch, In Too Deep, and Anything She Does. So the rest of the songs still have at least some kind of sonic muscle. Here we go.
And here's Land of Confusion.
That weird puppet commercial.
Kind of the first political song I ever...
With that horrifying... what were those puppets called? Puppet.
Just things English people do to terrify their children. Like the English version of Sesame Street. Are you scared? Prepare to be terrified.
Yeah, they didn't pull any punches with this music video, but...
Not to get political, but I can't believe this is about Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher, and they've doubled down since then.
And,
it's freaking ridiculous.
Was that Gorbachev? Was that him at the time? The quintessential element of the song is that like synthesizer loop thing. I don't even know how to imitate it, but just that thud, constant thud.
Oh, the electronic bass kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember this song sounding good on headphones. It's like, I wasn't a big electronic guy, but still thought this sounded good. I remember this video playing at many a party after everybody else passed out or left, and just thinking, I guess I'm going home. Now we're watching MTV. I could do this at home. This song, it played every 10 minutes on MTV when it came out.
I mean, this is pretty damn brilliant, because you're talking about an extremely popular song from an extremely popular album that sold a shit ton, that's basically giving the middle finger to the establishment, and it works. It's a weird... Like, how is my brain supposed to interpret this?
Right.
Like, breakdown. The only thing I cringe with this song is the line, my generation will put it right. I'm like, never claim that. You don't know till way after the fact if that was successful.
I don't know. I'm kind of hinging my hopes on millennials. I mean, it's just kind of like they all seem more in tune with what's happening in the world now and going, all right, you guys screw it up as much as you can, and when we get control, we'll fix it.
Well, there's the whole thing about the me generation, like this extreme selfishness in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
This whole song is about that whole thing where... that I talk to my wife about all the time, and like, where the whole time I'm growing up, I can't ever figure out why people, they hate paying taxes, but they want all the benefits of paying taxes. That kind of thing. Like, this song reminds me of that, where, like, oh, this is all screwed up, but they'll fix it. Put it off to the next thing.
They also did Live Aid, and there's a ton of socially conscious songs. I mean, they didn't have to.
I like Farm Aid better.
I'm just saying...
At least it was more in your face here. It was like, farmers losing their land. I got that. I was right here watching it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I'm going with that, because music has always, except for now, music has always been socially conscious to a certain degree. Not anymore. I can't do it. I don't write anything remotely political not because I'm afraid. I just, like, what the f*** do you say? Like, stop being an idiot?
Oh,
I'm just saying, I can't do it. So kudos to Genesis. My
only political poem was, I wish I could give head just as good as you. And then I showed it to somebody and they go, this is very pornographic. And I was like,
did you write that?
You don't even get what I'm talking about. Okay.
Did you write a love letter
I give up.
to Margaret Thatcher?
No, I hated Margaret Thatcher.
You like Phil Collins?
No. Up, you. Meh.
Listen to that ensemble playing by Banks and Rutherford.
In the answer.
Sabrina, don't just stare at it. Eat it.
I almost know the entire Huey Lewis when he talks about
I know the Huey Lewis.
Sports is the greatest album he's ever heard.
Before that, they were too artsy, too intellectual. But when Duke came out in 1981...
But I just can't take this.
I always love that when a movie or another piece of popular culture kind of overrides the way your brain interprets something.
No, I get it.
All right,
you should expand upon that.
This already beats Thriller, because this is the only sleeper song on the album. I mean, anything she does is kind of dull too, but at least it's fairly upbeat. And at least this is purposely... It's not mellow. It's like purposely down and like, yeah... It's a baby making song.
It's the fourth song in, right? That's how it works. Like, we've talked about that before.
They knew how to pace this,
right?
Whoever arranged Thriller didn't do a good job.
Right.
I'm just saying that, and I'm already gonna say this is overall a better experience.
I think the pacing of the album of Thriller was an afterthought.
Yeah, we're not even halfway through yet, and it's already just an overall better experience.
I have a good example
than Thriller. I'm sorry, Michael Jackson.
No, I have another '80s example.
I like "It's My Life, It's Now or Never."
That was 20 years after that.
I ain't gonna, but I just can't take it. How is this not on my greatest mall walking songs list?
No, mama.
Yeah, this song is so smooth it makes my balls hurt.
Your smooth shaven balls?
Bon Jovi. How do you spell
shave
Jovi?
my balls smooth because I'm a millennial.
Slippery when wet. Gee, I wonder what they were talking about.
Pussies.
Phil Collins. Here's the only actual filler song on the album. Anything She Does, which was
It's like magic.
It was kind of a minor hit, but
magic.
it's upbeat, but it's still kind of like a meh.
This is stupid already.
Synth horns are always a mistake, almost always.
Yeah.
Which is weird because he used horns before, but he would always get Phil Collins would always get like 2 or 3 times he used Earth, Wind, and Fire, their horn section for Genesis.
It's just making me angry. It's so fake.
So I'm wondering, this isn't a good combination of sounds. So I'm just wondering, why didn't he use an act? So like the song Paper Late, which is a Genesis B-side, like one of my favorite Genesis songs.
Yeah.
He used an actual horn section. Like, why not use it here?
Yeah, this is terrible.
It's like, ugh!
It's making me physically angry.
Like, synth horns always sound really bad.
Oh, it's stupid. Oh, if you're listening along, folks, this is stupid. It's pissing me off.
It's just...
oh, my God.
Just... All right.
It's all right.
I'm going to pee? How much? All right. Oh, my God, this song's 4 minutes and 20 seconds long. How?
This sounds like it's off of the soundtrack to Beverly Hills Cop. I feel like we're watching a really car chase right now. Either that or somebody's trying to sell bananas on a beach. Do you like bananas? I sell bananas. Would you like a banana? It hurts. Yeah, it's so stupid. It hurts.
Here's the big...
And we're back.
Here's Genesis. This is basically their 10-minute and 45-second apology for the last song. This is kind of a pseudo-sequel to Home by the Sea, Part 1 and 2. Where they're like, okay, we can't just do pops. We can't just do a total pop album. And so they did this.
Okay.
There's 2 songs in this, and kind of Tonight that still harken back to this grand concept. Man, that last song just killed it. I got nothing left. Anything She Does. Yeah, so like I said, this and Brazilian save it from just being a beginning to end pop album. That rabbit outside is gonna get run over.
Wow.
And then it picks up.
You hit 3 tires. That's amazing. He wants all the rabbits. And the more we say rabbit, the crazier he's going to get.
Okay, I will... This is why I listen to We Can't Dance more than this album.
Hmm?
This is a better album, but We Can't Dance has more broad, like stretched out moments where you can... It's kind of storytelling, beginning, middle, and end that's kind of stretched out, where you get invested in kind of the story of this song. And the album after this, it has like much bigger soundscapes and longer songs that you can get invested in, like this one.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the only one like this on this album. So the rest of it is just a collection of pop songs. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you can put together like 5 or 6 hits on an album, good for you. I'm just saying I prefer an album that has like length and depth and flow to it. So by no means am I saying that We Can't Dance is a better album, but it's a more mature album. But maturity in and of itself isn't better. It just means that it's more of like something you can keep going back to easily, as opposed to
this one
just a good collection of songs.
Feels like a step backwards from Genesis. This song especially, like, it feels like we're taking a step back before Genesis. Shapes, you call it Shapes all the time. This feels like a step before that. This sounds more like, listen to all the neat sounds we can make. You know? Well... It's artistic.
Yeah,
it feels...
Shapes is weirder, so by default I like it better. It's just like it's more abstract. It's not as abstract as Abacab, but it's still like there's still a fanciful element to it there's no fanciful element at all. They completely dropped any kind of fantasy element from this. This is straight, like, lyrically all straightforward pop. But in Genesis, in the Shapes album, Home by the Sea, you have like a haunted house. Second Home by the Sea, instrumental. Illegal Alien, dumb song, but whatever. It's kind of weird and different. Taking It All Too Hard, that's fairly straightforward. All right, never mind. These are all fairly straightforward too. So I'm trying to figure out what the difference is.
This is a little jump backwards. This feels more in.
Screw the pretense. This song's boring. I hate this album. I hate Genesis.
Every time, never fails. I think I was onto something earlier when you said that Peter Gabriel's So album came out, and this came out right after it. It's like, I feel like there's something to that, because this is very easy to listen to on the radio.
Oh. It's not lyrical weirdness. It's each song is very distinct. I'm just trying to figure out why that one's more eclectic than this. So like Illegal Alien. It's just song different, like the difference between song to song.
This is more like,
each song has.
I want to be on the radio. I like being on the radio. That's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah. So I think the moral of the story. We'll eventually get to the Genesis album, but I think the moral of the story is each song on the Shapes album had its. It was more eclectic songwriting, where each song had its own fairly distinct identity.
I don't know whether Invisible Touch caught up, like, this is where Genesis caught up with pop music, or pop music caught up with Genesis, but something happened, and this is it's like a more intelligent version of whatever everybody was doing.
Yeah, it's great songwriting. It's catchy as but Tony Banks fell asleep at the keyboards. He was not trying to do anything remotely, except for the Brazilian. That song is brilliant.
I hear a couple of things here and there, sound-wise, that are
different. I'm blaming this one. Even Mike. I'm blaming this on Mike and Tony. I mean, obviously they were there.
The drumming is totally phoned in on this album.
Here's Throwing It All Away. Here's another mid-tempo pop one. Yeah. So it's like the basic song construction is brilliant. These are brilliant pop songs.
Oh, we're playing... The next song we're playing right now?
But I'm specifically blaming this one on God Bless You, I Love You, Tony Banks, but you fell asleep at the keyboards on this one, and you were not contributing.
I don't even know what this one is.
Yeah. You've had to have heard this. This is a fairly...
I've heard it. I just don't know what it's
Throwing It All Away.
Throwing It All Away. Yeah. You gotta tell them.
Throwing
in case they want to follow along.
So yeah. So like...
I like this song.
So Mike Rutherford,
but it's still poppy.
So like Mike Rutherford generally at this point was generally contributing, like, you know, gentle guitar licks here and there. So I'm blaming this one on Tony. Was not contributing any textual variation to the album. Maybe that's what he was going for, but yeah, because you listen to Abacab in the Genesis album. There's always these weird little things coming in and out of the mix, like just these weird little synthesizer things that always kind of catch your attention.
Now that I listen to this album altogether, I just feel like this one goes after Abacab better than Shapes does. It's just like
Take
Shapes
that back.
Is like the
I
whole
will
thing.
Slap you.
Shapes just is like a sonically perfect album, and this just sounds like Abacab plus a couple of years. Yeah, you can disagree all you want.
Abacab is fucking genius.
I like Abacab. It just, this album sounds like it should have came right after it. You're in the way. Oh,
Alright, I have to caveat this by saying I like this song. I like this song a lot, but I'm still gonna ring the filler bell.
The dog doesn't agree. I just want to point out, I said that and he looked at me like I was insane. So, I have my opinion. And apparently it is the wrong opinion.
It is. You lose.
No, 'tis.
Here's the one legitimately cool song on the album. Besides maybe Tonight, Land of Confusion. This song epitomizes what makes the Shapes album and Abacab great. Where it's just weird. It's just, there's little weird bits going on everywhere.
Like Abacab?
Yes. You can tell they're having fun. Like, the sonic palette is very colorful. This album is very, just pretty, like, great songwriting on just the basic melodic level. But, tonal palette-wise and the color scale is very narrow on this album. And this is one of the few exceptions. This song is the shit. I'm turning this up. So goodbye, folks. I'm just gonna turn this up and listen to it. I have nothing to say.
Color palette is orange. Because he said color palette, so I'm gonna tell you what the color palette is.
We can do final thoughts, because...
Is that the last song?
Yeah.
It's pleasant.
This is the first one that was... it didn't change my mind, and it wasn't worse. I still have the exact same opinion about Invisible Touch, is that the songs don't bounce off each other, they don't give each other any kind of meaning, there's no flow to the album, really. It's just a collection of damn good songs, and you could put them in any order, basically, and it wouldn't make a difference. So it's why I just don't pop on Invisible Touch. I'm not hunting down a vinyl copy of Invisible Touch.
Right.
And it's only one of, 3 Genesis albums I don't have on vinyl, because I don't care. But I like almost every single song on here except for anything she does. I just don't want to listen to them back to back. So that's another question, is does that actually make this a worse album than We Can't Dance? I would say these are all better songs than most everything on We Can't Dance.
It just doesn't... They don't... I don't know. They
solid B+.
They flow okay. They just don't flow awesomely.
Yeah.
When you say that, it's like, yeah, I thought the first couple of songs flowed really well, and then it came back in at the end.
It wasn't
so
like...
it's like the middle part, I just felt like you just kind of flopped that in there.
It wasn't like some albums we do where there's just a prolonged period of God Kill Me Now. So
yeah, there's just a few songs in the middle where they just tried to keep their prog credit.
But that'll be my new thing.
That's all. They just tried to keep their prog credit with Domino. And you liked it, but I didn't really think it was anything all that interesting. That's all. I think
maybe it's just you have to hear it live. It's one of those that works better live.
Sure. There's a lot of stuff that works better live.
This is better than Thriller.
The dog is completely bored to shit by it, but that's all right.
This is a hard one. This makes more sense to me than Thriller, because Thriller was just those 3 damn songs and PYT kind of. But this one you kind of get it. It's more of a solid entity. It's like, yeah, you get the overall package. For me, the overall package of Thriller doesn't really make much sense. It's like, okay,
the only thing in hindsight of this song, now that I've listened to the entire album, no balls. This album doesn't have balls. I've heard Genesis albums that have balls. This one doesn't have the push.
I agree.
Everything's very... what's the word I'm looking for? It's very easily...
There's not a lot of risk-taking.
Right, nothing acceptable.
And I hate saying that, because it's just... you're talking about, top-notch pop music songwriting here.
Sure.
So I don't mean...
But as an album, it just kind of feels...
Yeah. There's not a lot of...
I don't know a word for it.
There's not a lot of oomph or color or real risk-taking on this, they hit the nail on the head as far as
even with artistic music, There should be somebody with their hand firmly implanted on their crotch going, yeah! You know, it's like, this doesn't feel like that. This feels more like, I want to be on the radio a little bit. That's all.
I'm not sure.
I'm not against it. That's what you're supposed to want. It's not. There's nothing biting or hard. Land of Confusion was about.
But there's it is absolutely more of just a streamlined, focused album than Genesis. But I like AKA Shapes.
And yet,
but I like that better.
album, which we should do because it feels like
I like it better. But this
has more balls. This one doesn't have. It's missing something.
But I don't think balls are necessarily everything. I mean, Ziggy doesn't have any balls.
I'm only using balls.
That's what I'm saying. Is this album is laser focused? But that's not necessarily my thing, and it is missing.
It takes no chances. I don't feel it doesn't take.
It's incredible songwriting. It's just missing some hard lumps. I can't think of any better way.
I think it's incredible in that it doesn't take any chances. It knows, like everybody that's making it knows exactly what to do to get where they want to go. There's no risk taking. And I know people, there's no swinging at the ball outside the strike zone. There's no nothing.
Exactly. But I think people read that the wrong way. Like, oh, it's so square. No, I think they were just so laser focused in on just this thing, and it's not necessarily bad. It's just not great for repeat listens. It reaches a huge audience. Clearly, I think they were in the zone. They were in a zone that's going to appeal to the most people. It's
kind of like the difference between Huey Lewis and Iggy Pop. It's just some people get what it takes to be, and then other people just say, I don't care.
Here,
this feels like I want you to love me kind of album.
We can put it in a different context. Okay, let's just take some other huge selling 80s album that takes even less risk. So you can compare it to something else. Like, nothing's coming to mind, but like, okay, some just dumb high selling 80s album. You can compare it to something far worse that's still sold. So this is still conceptually out there within like the narrow realm of 80s pop. There still really isn't anything that sounds like it, so I'm still going to give it like a very B++, maybe an A- if I was not trying to get this podcast over with as quickly as possible. So what's your wait? So I give it 2 invisible touches to the Ziglet out of 3. So
I wouldn't give it an A-. I put it in the B range. Where's Mommy? Mommy's home.
Give her the invisible touch.
Where is she?
Chris, what's your rating for the album you didn't listen to?
Chris, your rating for Invisible Touch. Excellent podcast. Okay.
I'll take it.
So I give it a mid B. That's I
give this podcast
I got nothing.
4 stars. I really enjoyed listening to the podcast today.
Woo!
Thanks, everybody. Make sure to like and subscribe.
Sorry.
One day we'll get 20 subscribers, and it'll be beautiful.